This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Michael, so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Nice to be here, Shannon.
Of course. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So today we are going to get first, as usual, into a fun little game. I personalize all these games for each guest, so this is specifically for you. So this game is called Write It or Wrong It, because I'm extremely creative and so good at making titles for things. No one should make me their copywriter. That is for sure. This game is basically how it's going to work is I'm going to give you some scenarios and you're going to tell me whether you would write it, meaning you would use it or utilize it, or wrong it. You think it's a horrible idea and that you should not do it and that you wouldn't recommend others do it.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. Okay, first point. A Substack post that's just a half-formed thought, but it's very honest and you think it would still be helpful.
For Substack, I would say wrong it.
That makes complete sense. Can you explain why a little bit?
I just think the forum is not, the forum itself is not for short, half thoughts. It really, is for, I don't know, I consider it more of an essay form. It's not X, it's not, 140 characters. I feel like Facebook has the half thoughts covered.
Yeah, there's room for that on other platforms, but that doesn't seem like the correct place for half thoughts. I completely understand where you're coming from. Okay. Next one. A brand headline that sounds poetic but slightly confusing.
Wrong it. A brand headline should be, copywriting in and of itself is a communication art. It is not fine art. It's not personal. It needs to communicate something. So if it's confusing in any sense, then it's needs some work.
Yeah, I would say. I think at least, even if it doesn't follow strict guidelines, sometimes like you're pushing the line a little bit. I think that at the very least, you still need it to communicate what you are trying to do. I think that is what is the most important thing. People are constantly confused about advertising and different marketing ploys and whatnot, but at least when they're reading something, they actually know what they're getting.
I can say too, as a writer and a poet, early on in my career, that was a comment that was I became very familiar with. Learning that distinction definitely necessary.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes complete sense. I know we're on the game and I will move on, but I actually have a follow-up question to that because I think that's a really interesting point is that, often poetry, I'm sure you find, is up to interpretation. Sometimes people may just interpret it incorrectly or whatever it may be. How do you balance the eloquency of sometimes copy or just your word choice in general when creating for it to be something easily understood, but also still, for lack of better phrasing, artistic?
From a brand standpoint, there are I don't know. I lean on things like brand lexicon and tone. Those two things really help push the kinds of language that you would use or the word choice, as well as the brand positioning. So, keeping in mind always what that higher purpose is. And in my mind, the poetry of it is kind of like the third tier. It's the communication, the craft of the line, to make sure that you're communicating what needs to be communicating, and then, iterations or variations of that, for sound, for punch, for different effects.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that something needs to kind of be brand centered before it can be like a little avant-garde, for lack of better phrasing. Like, it has to be considerate of those factors. Even if you want to push kind of challenge different rules, like, you still kind of have to stay within those confines at certain points, if not always, to an extent. I completely understand what you're saying with that, and I was so curious about that because you have such a poetic foundation, that it's just an interesting talking point, because like sometimes does it like crush you sometimes to like not be able to do it like when it's brand focused?
There have definitely been lines that I've written that I've felt very strongly and fallen in love with, and they've been deemed too poetic, and I don't know, but over time, I collect those lines, and I have used them elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Good. They can be put to good use somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Continuing with the game, I think you might like this one, actually. Okay. A newsletter that's more diary than insight.
I would have to say wrong it, but there's a part of me that I'd want to know what I can see a scenario or a world in which it might be appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me. Okay. How about this then? Tell me what would be a write it. Like, give me an example of something that you would have.
Where it would be appropriate?
Yes.
Yeah. So a newsletter that was written more like a diary. So I live in the world of medical healthcare marketing. So I could see a patient newsletter going out, to a advocacy organization that was written in a diaristic style, that, I think I would, want to make sure that there were insights in it, but how they were communicated, stylistically, I could see that.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I mean, like, I think that there's a time and a place for certain things, and like, especially with something that is more, for that would be like, I guess like patient-centered, but for if it's something that's audience-centered, like, I can see kind of a diary being insightful. I guess you can have both worlds, or you can have like a diary that's insightful of like, this is how I'm conducting my day in order to be helpful to clients. And if the newsletter is going out to clients, then maybe they'd like to see that, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like, something of that vice.
I do think there's also, I don't necessarily consider or think that like style or like diary and insight are not necessarily like two sides of a coin, because one is style and the other is like purpose or kind of like the bones of the content. So I feel like, the style would be dressing up those insights.
Yeah, no, you probably need both. I mean, if you're going to do one, because I mean, like, people don't just want to hear about your day if it provides them nothing. I mean, unless it's something really interesting and entertaining, which I guess is like technically insightful in a way. Entertainment is still insight, so to speak. I mean, like, I guess if you're reading something that's entertaining, you can still take insights of that, how can I make my work entertaining like this, if that makes sense. Okay, last scenario for the game. I'll let you off the hook. Okay, a clever line that clients love but creatives cringe at.
I would say wrong it. If there's a line that clients love and the creatives don't, in my mind, that should not then, like, it never should have gone in front of the client. yeah, that's interesting. That would work that way. I mean, like, you're just like so frustrated with the project, you're like, okay, fine, how about this? Yeah. If it's something that comes up in like a live workshop or meeting, I think it's always worth acknowledging, but never agreeing to like that's the one, so that you can go back and come up with other options that would, hopefully be stronger.
That's definitely a fair point. I think that it would be kind of odd that something that you weren't proud of would end up in the face of a client, but at the same time, I can see a scenario in which you're maybe a client is so nitpicky or not happy with your work or something like that you just put out something just to see, like a Hail Mary, and then it ends up being something that's successful with A/B testing.
I actually, earlier in my career, an art partner and myself, like, we decided to present a joke concept, and internally at our agency, it kept moving forward, and we were entertained by it, but then it came down to, we were needing to go present to the client, and we had 5 or 6 concepts, and I tried to like kill it, stop it from going. And I think our creative director like realized, at that point then what we had been doing, and made us take it. And even when we got to the presentation, like, I actually like could not bring myself to do it. It was mortifying in so many different ways. So yeah, careful as a word of caution.
That's hysterical, though. I mean, like, that's a learning moment, though. I mean, like, to just try something and then find out, oh, like, this put me in a really uncomfortable situation. Maybe I should not do this again. But it's a funny learning moment. I mean, to be like, wow, okay, maybe, like, sometimes my shit can be considered gold. So that's a funny scenario to kind of be put in, or see that your work can still. So, like, there are serendipitous moments where you think something is like, oh, this is a pipe dream, and then it ends up becoming that, but maybe something that you think is a complete joke should not be one of those things.
Yeah, it was not the right move to pull.
So
bluff got called.
Yeah, no, that's it's a learning moment. It's a learning moment, but it's a funny learning moment. So at least you can look back on it and be like, that's really funny that happened, and now I know that maybe I should not try to push the boundaries like this again, just in case I'm the one that has to tell someone about it when it comes down to it. Well, one, thank you for participating in my game. I thought that was very fun. And see, we already learned so much about each other. So, but moving on, I want to talk a bit more about like earlier on in your career. Like, okay, so everyone has something that draws them to what they do. What was that for you? Like, what drove you to copywriting and creative direction? Like, was there a moment or a project that made you know that you wanted to do this? Like, even if you were already involved in it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I had honestly, so I had gone through grad school for creative writing, and had been working as an editor through that time. Once I graduated, I moved to a different location, and I was sending out resumes, for editorial work across industries. And the first place to get back to me was a healthcare marketing agency. And so it's something that, like, entering into that industry was something I'd never honestly thought of, good or bad. So that was kind of random. And then once I was actually in the agency, I spent a year or so doing editorial work and getting used to, I was editing, the copywriters. So I was getting used to the style of marketing writing. And then the added, I guess the added part of it, that being needing to, get comfortable with science, biology, and references. And I found that I had a kind of a, with purpose, I kind of had a knack for it. And yeah, having the writing background, I started to kind of take on lesser projects. And eventually, one of the creative directors who I'd been working with and had talked to, gave me a chance to continue on in that capacity. So I was able to make the switch from editing to copywriting. And I just really enjoyed that. There was so much, even in the healthcare space, like, there really is so much room for creativity. And I really enjoy, I think, marketing in general being, a way, like, there's a problem and you come up with solutions, and coming up with creative solutions is, just fun to me. And the writing aspect, writing is my engine. I love it. I do it for work, and I still continue on writing, in my personal life, poetry, essays, a couple of manuscripts. I still have that dream of finishing my screenplay, all of that. So yeah, writing is just, I feel so incredibly lucky to write, to make my living that way, even though it's a kind of writing I never imagined I would be doing.
Yeah, no, I really understand that. I think that it is really lovely to be so passionate about something that you can almost, and maybe this is generalizing a little bit, but you can almost do it in like any format, but you enjoy it just because it's something that you get to do and learn. Like, I'm sure that, maybe you've found your niche in how you do copywriting now, but like, I think that it seems like maybe you'd be happy kind of doing it in any facet, because it's just a way to like make your gears turn and like be able to do writing in some way that kind of challenges you in, like, because I think that what's really cool about creative is that a lot of people, I think, that maybe aren't creative, aren't used to like a creative position, believe that with confines, you're almost like restricted in your ability to be creative. But I almost think with confines, you have this ability to think like more strategically, which makes you almost be more creative because you have to think of solutions for that problem that maybe someone hasn't thought about before, rather than like when you're run amok, you might feel almost more stifled when you don't have any confines.
I agree with that 100%. That is how I present myself, work-wise, is being a strategic creative. There really is that line between, fine arts and communication arts. And that, I don't know, the coming up with creative solutions, and using confines as a kind of springboard. I think it makes the challenge, challenging, but also like that's to me part of the fun. It's like a puzzle, but you're not looking for that one path out. You're making up the maze as you're escaping it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's a puzzle with multiple pieces that can fit in that hole or that space. No, I completely understand what you mean. I think that's so. I think that's something that's so fascinating about marketing positions too, is that a lot of people that maybe don't have a streamlined position in marketing that people can associate with being creative. They just think that marketing isn't creative. It's more I guess numbers based or something like that. And I think that's so wrong. Or maybe people that are doing it that way are doing it wrong, if that's but it's so cool to be able to figure out a problem or a solution to a problem in that way that is most optimal. And I think that that's kind of the creative that people get to be doing.
Yeah, that's definitely the numbers part of it, there are important. But I don't know, to me, strategy, I've been in agencies where I don't know, different disciplines do get siloed, but to me, strategy is creative.
I think it is.
So I feel that's the first step of it. And I don't know, I'm also a self-taught marketing creative. It's not what I went to school for. And so there was a part, early in my career where I was doing, I was kind of giving myself, putting myself through my own marketing education. So just absorbing, from colleagues. I definitely had some great managers and mentors. But then also, reading any book and every book I could find on it. And some of those were strategy-based books, positioning books. And that, I don't know, that was one of those moments that just kind of opened the door to how I thought about challenges or, marketing challenges, and really kind of, started to give me frameworks as to different ways to look at things.
Yeah, I think that it really is important to be able to expand your knowledge on how you can do something too, because I think that even marketers and that have traditional upbringings into marketing, for lack of better phrasing, have, I think, trouble siloing themselves into thinking a specific way. And I think that is, you know, everyone is capable of doing that, especially like I find, like, I talk to founders a lot of the time, and a lot of them have expressed to me that it's sometimes hard to get out of your head about like how you view your agency or company or whatever it may be, because that's not necessarily how your audience views you or like your ideal customer views you. And I think that's kind of similar to anyone in a marketing position as well, of like sometimes when you're within a company, agency, whatever it may be, like you view it as a certain way and you're like advertising it or like putting out your content as if that is what everyone else thinks it as. And I think that like in order to like, it's important to expand your knowledge and look at different places of like how to view something as for different solutions, because that's not necessarily like your point of view is not always what's going to do the best when it's put out there.
Yeah, that is I think that's a key insight. You know, and so important to do, like, you know, part of that idea of communication is keeping, you know, the audience in mind, not yourself, not your own subjectivities, but, you know, what you need to get across to an audience and how to best serve it up to them. You know, when I approach writing, and I had a supervisor, manager at some point who I remember like getting a project and, you know, coming up with a concept, and he challenged me to write 100 headlines for that concept, which, like,
Whoa.
To me felt impossible. Like, how
that sounds like detention.
But it was really like, I mean, that was truly one of those moments where, like, you know, cracked open so many I don't know, opened a door to like a much bigger world. Like, even as with a writing background, like that moment changed the way I approach writing across the board. You know, I wrote a couple of headlines, and like it just forced me to go through every which way I knew how to write. You know, everything from like, you know, the most basic, like swapping out words to, you know, like trying different, what I know now are rhetorical structures. But at the time, you know, like I'd seen headlines that had, you know, there was three words, you know, word period, word period, word period. And so like, you know, just even like forcing different structures, you know, questions versus declaratives, you know, even, yeah. From that, like, I mean, I've written headlines that are haikus. Like, it just, like, it opened up such a world of like, you know, I mean, yeah, creativity of like, I can approach headlines from all of these, and like, you know, I had the concept, I knew what needed to get across. So like having that foundation just made all of the exploration like, yeah, fun, like, I don't know, like exciting and energetic.
Yeah, and so if you're not like given those types of challenges every now and again, then you don't get to see like what you're really capable of. Like, even if it's exhausting to the point where you're like, I'm just creating crap at this point in time, but like it's still like, even what you consider to be like awful might be something that is like, you know, at least challenging your brain to like think in a different way, or like someone else might think that sounds great. I don't know, but it is like, very fun to have challenges like those as well.
I mean, there's a scary moment in it where it's like, yeah, you're like, you know, you can kind of see the end of the track that you're on. And yeah, like so much of it, like it forces you to abandon that self-editor, you know, that would keep you from putting something down on the page. Because like, you got to get it on the page so that you can move beyond it. And just like being able to see the end of the track and having that constraint of, you know, the challenge was 100 headlines. I'm at, you know, 73.
And you're like, okay.
Like what, like I've exhausted this way. What else can I possibly try?
Mm-hmm. And now you know all the ways. Now
Yeah.
you know every possible way now.
It really did. It helped me, like, yeah. I mean, I've gone back to that approach of, you know, I've challenged myself with that at multiple times throughout my career, like honestly now, because it is kind of fun. And like once I've challenged writers who I've managed with that as well. It's, yeah, I don't know, like it helped me also shape like my own style too, as far as like the kinds of lines that I gravitate towards. You know, I'm more aware of like, yeah, the types of lines that I find easy or I can whip off, you know, relatively quickly, that, you know, I'm aware of, so that I'm not just doing that. Like I need to, like, you know, I push for range all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a good challenge to have for yourself. I mean, especially when you want to like learn and grow in what you're doing. I think that even goes back to our point about like not getting stuck in the way in which you're looking at something. That's it's hard not to do that when you're in like a specific position for so long too, to like not see something a specific way.
I think it also, you know, I mean, I'm speaking from a copywriting background, but like, I think that is true of, you know, all the, you know, creative marketing disciplines, like, you know, visual art, like, styles, different, I don't know, quote unquote, like marketing genres. Like there are so many, you know, different tracks that you can go down and explore and, you know, find new combinations of. And so it's not just writing. I think, like, yeah, the visual side, you know, yeah, user experience side, I think that they're all open to that sort of exploration.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is something that, yeah, like for example, like a designer can do something in a bunch of different styles. Like even if that's not like definitely the requested style or whatever it may be, it's still like a different way of them to see if, like, I don't know, it's also their capabilities. Like, do you even like this style? Like, is this something that you find fun or like something that you want to do more? Like, you would never know that if you didn't explore like all the possibilities of doing something. And that's something that's really exciting too, as someone that's creative, just like being able to see every facet in which you can be creative, which is vast. I mean,
I think too, there's an aspect of, you know, to being creative, like, you know, that having those moments of surprise. Like if you're approaching something the same way every time, like writing a line the same way, you know, pushing forward a visual style, you know, that you've used however many times, like, you know, you're not giving, you're kind of closing off surprise. You know, you can, I don't know, as a writer, like I know I can fall into using not just the same type of line, but like you know, I definitely, there are words that are stuck in my head that, you know, I will go back to, that, you know, when I'm writing headlines, like, you know, I need to make sure I'm pushing beyond those. And not just from a like word swap, you know, thesaurus, but like, you know, I find that there are a couple of like association practices that I have incorporated in my work, you know, to kind of build my own lexicon for that project, you know, and then through in that writing, like I find different words that in my mind are like, I think of them as like hinges. And so, you know, like if I have a concept, you know, and the image is like of a tennis player, you know, the idea of form is something that, you know, like connects or is a hinge between, you know, that aspect of the visual, but then also, you know, if I'm talking about a medicine, like the formulation. And so like there are moments like that where, you know, if I wasn't coming up with that lexicon, you know, I may not be thinking about form at all. And so I'd miss out on that connection, that, you know, in creating an ad or a website, like, you know, that's where you get some of that, I don't know, energy, excitement, from.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You need to be able to, like, for lack of better phrasing, do some soul searching sometimes to see like the different ways in which you can do something and like see where things connect, because like if without that exploration, then you'd kind of just be siloed, I guess, in the same place in which you're kind of used to doing things. So for my final question for you, because we're getting a little over time, but I'm really curious about this because I hear a lot of like funny, for lack of better phrasing, like superstitions amongst writers and different things like that. Like, do you have any rituals, habits, anything that you do for writing? Maybe it could be related to writer's block, which I feel like a lot of people talk about, like what do you do to get yourself out of that? Or like just in general, when you write, like do you have something maybe outside of the 100 and let me make 100 headlines to see what I'm doing, but like something that you do regularly that you think genuinely helps your process, that you think that maybe is unusual or not, like you don't hear often?
This could be a rabbit hole.
I'm ready.
I love writing, and I have spent my, you know, career and then some, you know, thinking about creativity. Like even before, I don't know, going back to like when I first started writing, like, you know, 12, 13, like I came from, you know, I don't know, creativity for me was always something like, you know, I never felt creative. I always saw creativity in other people and felt like it was, you know, some magical gift they were born with. And so from the very beginning, like I had such a drive to be creative because, you know, for whatever reasons, a 12, 13-year-old wants to be creative. Like, you know, it seemed like, yeah, it seems so cool.
The angsty pubescent age.
But it never, like, I never felt inherently creative. So like I was from the very beginning always looking for like ways to be creative, like how to like learn, you know, how somebody did something. So like that has kind of been my ethos throughout my career. Like creativity is something that can be learned, and through, you know, doing that, I mean, I've come across, a lot of different ways of, you know, getting past writer's block. You know, I do find, like, to answer your question, like, I think word association or writing associatively around a topic, like not just a free form, but like, you know, I could pick a word out of a hat and just start writing about that. And I find that is so helpful to me in like, expanding, you know, how I'm thinking or writing about something, or, you know, forcing myself to find connections to other things. But yeah, in all of the searching, you know, I believe that like our brains are primed to think creatively. You know, I believe a lot in structure over prescription. Like, I think there's scaffolding that can be really helpful. You know, I think, I'm very process, not like structure, but process over method. I'm very process oriented because I think you can approach things, like have a process, and depending on what variables you put into it, you're always going to get something different. And so, I'm always like, I don't know. It is like building the maze that I'm looking to get out of. Like coming up with a process to like, like give myself something to write about. I once wrote a series of poems. Like, I came up with a mathematical system, like, you know, for my bookshelf at the time. So like 20 some odd years ago, like the number of books, I numbered the books, you know, had it was early days of cell phones, you know, had a number generator. So a lot of it was like random and got down to like the word level, to like create this like bizarro world of words that like became my constraint, like that I wrote, you know, X number of poems using those words about X number of different topics. Like, so I don't know, that like my brain, like, I think that's why I really do love the marketing challenges, because that's how I approach, like, that's how I've come to approach creativity in general across the board. Like, you know, giving myself challenges to kind of force, a new way of doing something. I don't know, the whole, like, I don't dispute that this works for people, but the idea of like, you know, creative freedom, like that to me is the most stifling.
It seems like everything that you're kind of getting at is like, you like challenging yourself. Like you like, it feels like that is your best case scenario of like just giving yourself different tasks that are like maybe unusual, but very helpful in like fine tuning your creative process and finding new ways to think about things. And I think that's genuinely incredible, because I think that a lot of people are almost, I don't know if afraid is the correct word for it, but like would rather, if they think they're doing fine, like if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing. Like they don't want to challenge themselves because whatever way that they're doing it is working. And I think that that's maybe not the right way to go about things. I mean, like challenging yourself makes you improve and makes you better and makes you, as we talked about, you know, kind of as a common theme, like explore different ways of doing something in which you could be, you know, you could even just like more rather than just be better at. And that makes your work more exciting. So Michael, I appreciate you coming on this show so much, because this was really fun. I mean, like, I don't often get to talk about writing often, and I love writing as a hobby as well, even though it's not necessarily related to my work, but and this was just really cool to like pick your brain about like your writing process and like how you think about things, because it's just like it's very fascinating. This is really, really cool, and I think that a lot of people that are listening will be able to get a lot out of this, because I mean, your emphasis on challenging yourself and exploring new ways of doing something, I think, is something that people don't do enough, because they're just going through the motions sometimes with what they're doing. So this was an incredible chat. Like, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I loved being here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you can check out Michael in the description, and I hope that you guys got as much out of this as I did. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd be nothing without you. Thank you so much. Bye guys.